Fired by an arrogant CEO. The shocking 50B secret the janitor knew at 3 a.m. The clock struck 3. The sharp clang echoed through the empty skyscraper, wrapping the dark corners in an unsettling tension. Harold, the janitor, moved with the quiet expertise of years spent navigating this cold, corporate labyrinth. But tonight was different. Heavy whispers danced through the corridors like ghostly phantoms, urging him onward as he pushed his mop across the slick marble floor. A shiver crept up his spine. Was that a light flickering on the higher floors? He hesitated, wiping sweat from his brow, his heart pounding like a drum in a silent hall. The elevator groaned and shuddered as if reluctant to go further. He pressed the button for the top floor. Above the mundane hum of the machinery, he could almost hear a secret being whispered. A fire flickered in his chest. Was it just the thrill of the unknown, or was it the sense of danger creeping closer? The doors slid open with a hollow ding, revealing an expansive office, drenched in shadows and mystery. Papers lay scattered like fallen leaves, but it wasn't the mess that caught his eye. No, it was the hastily discarded laptop perched on the executive's desk, its screen lighting up with a sapphire glow illuminating chaos. Harold could see the name, emblazoned across the screen in a crimson font, a name that sent chills through the firmament of his being. Bo Montgomery, the arrogant CEO everyone feared. Rumors had floated like smoke about his empire, a monstrous 50 billion operation built on questionable foundations. Words echoed in Harold's ears: betrayal, scandal, and power play. He could almost taste the salt of secrets that lingered in the air. And then, there it was, a cryptic email sitting unread, begging to be opened. It felt like a siren's call. Every instinct screamed at him to walk away, yet curiosity burned like an unchecked wildfire. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. He stepped closer, his heart racing, captivated yet terrified. The click of his boots against the hardwood floor fell deafening in this silence. The air became charged, thick with potential. What lay in that inbox? More than just a scandal, it felt like a ticking time bomb ready to explode. An itch crawled at the back of his mind. What if he knew something that others didn't? Would this moment change everything? As the distant hum of city lights twinkled below, enveloping him in a warmth that was starkly contrasted by the cold sweat on his brow, he could feel the universe shifting around him. Could it be that in this placid chaos, he held the key to something much bigger? Harold reached out, his fingers trembling as he hesitated over the mouse, uncertain but driven to reveal the truth hiding within the glow of the screen. What dark truth was waiting to expose itself, and at what cost? His heartbeat thundered in his ears as he finally clicked open the email. The screen flickered, momentarily blinding him with a white light. Words began to form: urgent, final notice, termination, sending a jolt through Harold like a cold shock. The email detailed a corporate deal shrouded in deception, orders veiled in secrecy. Montgomery was behind a scheme to abscond with millions, hiding money meant for employees. Cold sweat trickled down Harold's spine. Just then, the air thickened, a presence rushed into the room, chilling him to the bone. His instincts screamed for him to hide. He frantically scanned the office, looking for a place to shield himself. The shadows no longer felt like allies. They felt like predators. The elevator door creaked open, the low whir of machinery cutting the inky silence. Who could be arriving at this hour? With trembling hands, he minimized the email and turned off the laptop. He ducked behind the massive oak desk, heart racing like a runaway train. He needed to stay hidden, to gather his thoughts. A pair of polished shoes entered the office, like a menacing metronome. Harold peered cautiously from his hiding spot. His breath caught in his throat. Bo Montgomery himself stood in the doorway, body tense, eyes sharp like daggers. "Not now, not now," he muttered under his breath, pacing furiously. Harold's chest tightened as he tried to stifle a gasp. Montgomery's reputation was that of a man who crushed anyone in his way. Fear twisted like a vice around him. Montgomery was on the phone, voice low and conspiratorial, the intensity shrouded in urgency. "You're sure they don't suspect anything? I can't have anyone snooping around if they find out." His words trailed off, and the implication hung thick in the air like a noose. Harold wanted to bolt, to flee back down the stairs. But the secret swirling around him tied him to the spot. This was information that could change everything. And suddenly, a shaking hand thrust the door wide open. A young employee, eyes wide, terror etched across her face. "Mr. Montgomery, they found the documents. They're coming for you." Harold felt like he had just been swallowed by darkness. Montgomery's expression turned to ice, an intricate mask of fury and fear. "What do you mean?" he spat, anger spiraling out of control. The young woman stammered, clearly terrified. Their eyes locked for a split second. Harold's gut churned. Did she know he was here? Had she seen him? Montgomery grabbed her arm. "We can still fix this. Get rid of anyone who might talk." Harold's heart dropped, chills running down his arms. The implications of those words echoed in his mind. That was no longer just speculation. That was tangible danger. He was no longer a passive observer in this nightmare. He was now tangled in a web spun with deceit and peril. Quickly, he positioned himself against the wall, inching quietly toward the door, inching his way to freedom. But Montgomery's voice boomed, "We must act fast." The young employee looked as if she might burst into tears, and Harold wanted to help, but he had no idea what that would cost him. As he stepped lightly, soundlessly, his mind raced. Should he confront Montgomery? Should he call the police? Should he leave the building and forget he ever saw that email? He was being pulled in all directions, and each decision felt like walking the edge of a cliff. Suddenly, his foot caught on something, sending a tiny trash can clattering to the floor. Time froze. Both Montgomery and the young woman turned, eyes wide with shock. Harold's blood ran cold. The moment hung heavy in the air, a fragile thread about to snap. Would they see him? Would they know? Everything teetered on the brink of chaos, and Harold was caught in the eye of the storm. What would they do next? What had he just stumbled into? The shadows deepened as he prepared to make his next move. The stakes were rising. How far would Montgomery go to protect his empire? And what would he do to silence a witness? Harold clenched his fists, ready for whatever wild ride awaited him next. The silence shattered like glass as the trash can hit the floor, loud in the stillness. Montgomery's gaze locked on the door, sharp and cutting. Harold's instincts screamed at him to bolt, but his body felt frozen, caught in the haunting grip of fear. "Who's there?" Montgomery snarled, voice low but laced with authority. The young employee's breath quickened, her eyes darting nervously from Montgomery to the doorway. "Oh God, please no," she whispered, her expression a mirror of horror. Harold's heart raced as he realized the gravity of the moment. He was in the crosshairs. Montgomery was a wolf in a business suit, seeking to eliminate any potential threat, and Harold was teetering on the edge of being that threat. He'd always thought he was just a cog in the corporate machine, but now he was in the middle of a sinister game where the rules were deadly. "Show yourself." Montgomery took a step forward, the menace in his voice echoing through the dim office. Harold's breath came in shallow gasps. He had to think fast. If he revealed himself, he might very well be walking into a death trap, but if he didn't, Suddenly, the young woman spoke up, voice shaking. "It might be the janitor. I saw him sneaking around earlier." Harold's gut twisted. The unease in his chest was worse than just fear, it was a sinking feeling, and it settled heavily within him. He could either remain hidden and risk Montgomery's wrath, or confront the monster that loomed in the room. But there was no easy choice to make when survival became a matter of life and death. "Get out!" Montgomery barked, his voice slicing through the tension like a knife. The young woman flinched but stood her ground, catching sight of Harold still lurking in the shadows. "You can't just hurt him. He doesn't know anything." A flicker of alarm surged through Harold as he caught a glimpse of the machinations in Montgomery's eyes, the ice-cold calculation, the flicker of rage and desperation. The stakes had just risen. He wouldn't just be uncovering secrets. He could be sealing his own fate. "Enough. This is bigger than you. Bigger than your little moral compass. People get hurt when they meddle." Montgomery's voice dripped with contempt, and the warning froze Harold's blood. The urge to run washed over him, but he saw Montgomery's gaze cut to the door. Panic bubbled in his throat. This was it. He needed to decide, did he escape and leave the young woman to face the consequences, or take a stand and risk everything to protect her? "Please," she pleaded, desperation cracking her voice. "Don't do this. We can find another way." Montgomery's lip curled, an animal ready to pounce. "You have no idea what you're asking." That was it. The crack had formed, and the darkness began to spill. This was a chance for Harold. He could see the fear in the young woman's eyes, feel the courage beginning to flicker within him. Maybe he wasn't just the janitor. He could be someone who fought back against the impending chaos. Harold swallowed hard, steeling himself. "I won't let you hurt her," he said, his voice stronger than he felt. Montgomery's head snapped around, eyes blazing with fury. "You utter fool. You have no idea what you've just done." In a heartbeat, Harold lunged for the door, adrenaline surging as he pushed past the edge of fear. They would have to move fast. His chance to expose Montgomery was slipping through his fingers as the confrontation escalated. The three of them were entwined in a dangerous dance, a frozen second stretched into infinity. Would he expose the truth, or would Montgomery silence him before he could even try? The next moments could shatter everything he ever knew. The shadows were stirring again, and they promised danger and revelation. Was he ready to uncover the full depth of the secret hidden in the heart of the corporate beast? The very thought leveled his spirit as he prepared for whatever lay ahead. Harold's lungs burned as he dashed for the exit. He had no plan, just instinct and adrenaline propelling him forward. Behind him, Montgomery's furious voice erupted, "You won't get away that easily." Each footfall resonated in the hollow hallway, echoing the growing dread gnawing at his gut. The finality of it all hit him. If he didn't escape now, this might be the last time he would breathe fresh air. "Wait!" The young woman's voice sliced through his panic. "You can't leave me here." He hesitated, heart thrumming wildly in his chest. He was the janitor. Just a janitor. But in this moment, standing at a precipice, he could feel the weight of the world hanging in the decision he would make. "Come with me," he called over his shoulder, urgency coiling his words. Before she could answer, the door at the end of the hall swung open, a figure silhouetted against the harsh hallway lights. It was Reed, the security chief, a man whose loyalty to Montgomery was notorious. Panic hit like a punch to the gut. "Harold!" Reed bellowed, alarm painted on his face, cutting the air with panic. With a reflex born from desperation, Harold slammed the door shut behind him, locking it just as Reed's heavy footsteps pounded closer. A quick glance showed the woman panicking as well. They were two souls trapped in a game run by merciless hands. "Turn on the lights." She gripped his arm, eyes wide with fear. "If we can blind them right?" He scrambled for the panel, fingers fumbling. It felt like every second slithered by in slow motion as he flipped the switch. Harsh fluorescent lights flickered to life, and for a moment, the office illuminated with stark clarity. "Go," he urged. "We need to find a way out." But before they could move, Montgomery barged through, his demeanor calm, almost predatory. "I don't think you understand the gravity of what you're doing." His voice was smooth, a blade of ice scraping against their nerves as he surveyed them. "You're both completely outmatched." Harold's heart raced. "You're lying. I know what you're hiding. I want to let you control this." Montgomery chuckled darkly, stepping closer, an unsettling smile curving his lips. "Oh, my dear Harold, you have only scratched the surface. Do you really think you possess the key to that door?" "What door?" Harold felt confusion swirl inside him. The young woman's grip on his arm tightened, her eyes pleading as they sought reassurance in each other. Then, from the corner of his eye, Harold saw a glint of metal beneath the desk. A flash drive. His breath caught in his throat. The file. "What?" Montgomery's demeanor shifted, his focus suddenly laser-sharp. He lunged for the flash drive, but Montgomery was faster, snatching it up with a series of swift clicks. "This?" The words were like daggers. Fear surged within Harold again, the complete reality of their situation crashing down on him. "What's on it?" Montgomery smirked, reveling in their dread. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." "Try me." The retort fell from Harold's lips before he could think. This was his chance, an opening. But Montgomery's eyes narrowed, and a new darkness filled the air between them. The young woman shivered beside him, sensing the wickedness brewing. Harold's heart thudded violently. Had he just locked himself into a game of life and death? With the flash drive now in Montgomery's possession, he stepped back, a puppet master tightening his grip on the strings. "You're about to find out just how dangerous knowledge can be." What lay ahead was shrouded in ominous shadows, a tie that could bind them or break them, a revelation about his life that could obliterate everything he thought he knew. And as Montgomery raised a hand, a cold smile set on his lips, the question lingered: would Harold uncover the truth, or would the darkness consume him whole? Montgomery's smile widened, twisting into a sinister grin. "You want to know what's on here?" He waved the flash drive between them, teasing as if it were the final piece of a broken puzzle. The room felt charged, a tight coil of tension and fear. Harold's intuition screamed at him. He had to get that drive. "What do you think you can do with it?" He shot back, adrenaline fueling his words. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." Montgomery's laughter echoed in the sterile office, filling every crack and crevice. "How quaint," he mocked, "but you're the one who has no idea." The young woman, her face pale under flickering lights, took a step to Harold's side, drawing strength from his defiance. She whispered, "What if this is all a ploy to trap us?" Her voice trembled, revealing the fear gnawing at her resolve. "Then we turn the tables," Harold replied, his tone firm. "We don't submit. We fight." Her eyes shimmered with determination amidst the fear. They called upon every shred of courage they had buried inside. But Montgomery's quick succession of movements shattered that fragile hope. "Very noble, Harold. But let me show you the true price of knowledge." He plunged the drive into the nearest computer, the screen flooding with lines of code and diagrams that seemed to twist and writhe. "What is this?" Harold's heart raced, an urgent pulse thrumming in his ears. "Your reality," Montgomery replied coolly, eyes glinting like a hawk honing in on its prey. "This file contains the doorway to everything I've built, everything this company will do in the coming years. A future that I will not let anyone disrupt." With a sudden jolt, the screen illuminated Harold's horrified expression. He leaned closer, scanning the lines. Project names, dollar amounts, deals worth billions. But also something darker, something horrifying. "This is wrong. You're planning to control the market, yes. Montgomery's voice dripped with confidence. Imagine it, a pharmaceutical monopoly. A cure that only we would control. Would you really want this in the hands of common people? He savored that last word, flinging it like a betrayal. Harold's stomach twisted. No. This couldn't be real. He glanced at the woman beside him, her fingers shaking, mirroring the turmoil setting fire to his insides. Stop it! Harold shouted, desperation mingling with fury. You can't just play with people's lives? This wasn't just a company secret, this was humanity at stake. Montgomery shrugged, drawing nearer, a predator suffocating its prey. Why not? The world is a game, Harold. The strong survive. The weak, well, they simply have to let go. Suddenly, he approached the monitor, typing furiously as images flashed across the screen. You see, it's all about numbers. You and your friend here are just variables expendable. That word rang ominously through the room, igniting something primordial within Harold. A fire he couldn't extinguish. I wouldn't let you get away with this. Then you better hurry, Montgomery said, stepping aside and gesturing casually to the door behind him. Because the countdown has begun. As the lights dimmed, an alarm blared, and red lights pulsed, the sirens amplified the chaos within Harold. They had to escape before Montgomery initiated whatever twisted plan he had set in motion. Now! The urgency in his voice cut through the haze of shock. But the door wasn't just an exit, it was a barrier. Montgomery's men could be on the other side, ready to pounce. Desperation clawed at Harold, locking him into a fight for not only survival, but for countless lives hanging in the balance. We have to find another way, he breathed, glancing at the woman, who nodded, her resolve solidifying. As they turned, every option crumbled, a feeling of dread washing over them. Were they just playing into Montgomery's hands? Run! Montgomery shouted, a gleam of madness in his eyes. And just like that, the chase was on again, but now, it was deeper than just escape. It was about exposing the darkness, full of shadows, that held lives captive. But could they truly uncover the truth before it swallowed them whole? Or did escaping the building only mean stepping into an even darker trap waiting for them outside? The question weighed heavily in the air, and as the countdown ticked ominously behind them, the true battle for lives just might be beginning. They darted down the narrow corridor, footsteps echoing against the stark walls as the blaring sirens clawed at their sanity. Harold's heart pounded in a frantic rhythm, the countdown and Montgomery's sinister grin racing through his mind like a horror film on replay. Left. He yelled to the woman beside him, whose name he didn't even know, but that didn't matter now. Instinct drove them both. They veered sharply, ducking under an emergency exit sign, while the sound of heavy boots thundered behind them. You're sure about this? She gasped, skidding to a halt. Her chest heaved, desperation lighting her features like a fierce flame against the dark backdrop of their plight. No choice, Harold replied breathlessly, scanning the area for anything that might help. They were trapped, and the walls felt like they were closing in. A flickering light overhead cast distorted shadows. Somewhere down the hall, he caught a glimpse of figures moving in a disciplined manner. Montgomery's men were relentless. Where is the exit? She whispered, urgency lining her voice. Not far, Harold assured, though doubt gnawed him. They couldn't go back. If they did, it would all be over. Their very existence might hinge on this moment. Just as they turned another corner, the office doors suddenly burst open. Montgomery stood there, a colossus in the chaos, flanked by two muscular guards. You wouldn't escape that easily, he bellowed, the malice in his words cutting through the air like a razor. The woman grabbed Harold's arm, her grip tight. What now? He hesitated. Panic threatened to close in. We find cover. With no time to think, they ducked into a janitor's closet, the smell of bleach and dust flooding their senses. He could barely hear their breaths over the yells echoing through the corridor. "Do you think they'll check here?" she whimpered, almost wishing the walls would swallow them whole. "They have to," he whispered back, trying to quell the rising tide of fear. "But we can't wait." He could hear footsteps getting closer, the guards fanning out, calling out for them. It was now or never. Peering through a crack in the door, he watched as one of the guards approached. "We saw them take the left. Check every room." Just then, Montgomery's voice thundered again, "Don't forget our countdown. Secure them before it's too late." Harold's gut twisted. The countdown, it wasn't just a numerical measure of time, but perhaps a sinister signal for something much worse. The weight of the revelation knocked the breath from him. "Okay," he said, adrenaline quickening his movements. "We can't stay here. If they find us, we're done for." The woman nodded, and they both held their breath, knowing escape had to be quick, decisive. Swinging the door open a sliver, they quickly surveyed the hallway. "Empty, for now." "Go!" Harold urged, breaking out into the open and heading deeper into the labyrinthine hallways. They stumbled across a large, darkened room, filled with shadows and furniture that loomed like unseen giants. Desks, chairs, and old filing cabinets were scattered throughout the space, dimly lit by a few overhead lights flickering sporadically. "What is this place?" she asked, her voice low. "Some kind of storage," he replied, trying to stay focused. "We can hide here for a minute while we plan our next move." As they crouched behind a desk, breath hitching in Harold's throat, he scanned their surroundings. A beaten-up laptop sat inconspicuously on a cabinet. Without thinking, he tiptoed over and powered it up, heart racing as the screen illuminated with a faint glow. "What are you doing?" she whispered urgently. "If Montgomery's controlling everything, there has to be something on here that can help us," he said. Suddenly, sirens blared more intensely, shaking the walls around them. The weight of their situation pressed down heavier than ever. Just as the screen flickered to life, revealing a colorful logo, the door slammed open. A guard stepped in, scanning the room like a hawk. "Check everywhere," he barked, and Harold froze, fingertips lingering over the laptop's keys. Would he find the strength to uncover the truth before they were captured? Or was this gamble suddenly stacked against them, with danger lurking just a heartbeat away? The tension ratcheted up, and with one scream echoing down the hall, they knew this was just the beginning of their deadly game. The guard's heavy boots echoed ominously as he stepped further into the room, scanning every inch with ruthless precision. Harold could feel the chill of dread pooling in his stomach, threatening to bubble over. Every muscle in his body tensed, the air thick with fear as he dared to glance at the woman beside him. Her eyes were wide, shimmering with silent panic. "Stay quiet," he whispered harshly, holding his breath as the guard inched closer, mere feet away now. The fluorescent lights flickered again, casting eerie shadows that danced around the room. "Got your hands full, don't ya?" The guard muttered to himself, his eyes narrowing as he approached the now humming laptop. Harold's heart raced. He could feel the countdown ticking in his mind, each second pounding like a war drum. They didn't have much time. "Did you hear that?" Another guard's voice called, sounding distant but getting closer. "They could be anywhere. Montgomery promised us a bonus if we catch them." At that, panic surged through Harold. "We can't stay here. He'll find us," he whispered, just barely keeping his voice steady. The contact of fingertips on the keyboard alerted him that the guard hovered dangerously near. With a quick intake of breath, Harold made a split-second decision. He grabbed the woman's arm, pulling her toward a large storage cabinet that loomed against the far wall. "In there," he urged in a hushed tone. They slipped inside just as the guard's voice grew louder, a beacon of doom illuminating their desperate attempt. The cabinet felt cramped and stifling, but hiding seemed their only salvation. The sounds outside morphed into a chaotic symphony, the clamor of boots, snapping orders, and the relentless alarms. "Did you see where they went?" the guard snarled. "We can't let them slip through our fingers." Fear coiled tightly around Harold's chest as he peeked out through the slats of the cabinet doors. He could see the guard now standing before the laptop, fingers tapping recklessly. A terrible thought struck him. What if he accessed something critical? Something that would expose their secrets? "They must be gotten keys off someone," the guard said, glancing back toward the door. The muscles in Harold's jaw clenched. Montgomery had orchestrated all of this. He was the puppet master, and they were mere victims caught in the web of his power. "I think," the guard added slowly, "they might be trying to get away with the whole operation. Maybe they know something about the countdown." The woman in the cabinet shook her head lightly, eyes wide, breath quickening. "What countdown? What do they mean?" "Something worse than we imagined," he whispered back, heart hammering as they exchanged terrified glances. Just then, an unexpected crash echoed from down the hall, a commotion that momentarily distracted the guard. Harold seized the opportunity, adrenaline surging through him. "Now!" he agonized, pushing the cabinet doors open with all his might. They stumbled out into chaos. The guard spun around, eyes wide with surprise. But before he could shout, Harold tackled him, using the shock of surprise to his advantage. In one fluid motion, he knocked the guard to the ground. The thud reverberated in the vastness of the room, but he knew they had to keep moving. Time was not on their side. "Get to that door," he shouted to the woman, urgency cutting through his commands. With swift, decisive movements, he yanked the guard's handgun from its holster as he regained his footing. "Harold, what if they notice?" she called, eyes darting between him and the tumult outside. "They won't," he assured her. "Not if we get there first." As they bolted out into the hallway, sirens shrieking louder than ever, a loud voice echoed back from the entrance. "Don't let them escape." They sprinted toward the emergency exit, but just as they rounded the corner, a figure appeared, blocking their path. It was Montgomery himself, a grim smile stretching across his face. "You two thought you could run forever?" Suddenly, the ground beneath them felt like quicksand, and Harold realized they were trapped again, caught in Montgomery's cruel game of cat and mouse. What was worse than capture? The answer brewed inside him, and it was meant only for Montgomery's ears. "Let us see how many secrets you're willing to protect," he growled, drawing the gun suddenly, ready to confront whatever demonic plan Montgomery had up his sleeve. But what had Montgomery prepared that could shift the play entirely? The stakes could explode in this very moment. Montgomery's grin stretched wider, a wolf reveling in the undeniable scent of fear. "What do you hope to achieve with that?" he taunted, his eyes glinting with malice. A glimmer of confidence masked the chaos swirling in Harold's mind. "Your gun means nothing. You're out of your depth." "Maybe," Harold growled, feeling the weight of the weapon like a lifeline. "But I'm not going down without a fight." The woman by his side trembled, and he caught her eye. There was no time to reassure her. They were cornered, and the clock continued to tick. "Ah, but you see," Montgomery's tone inflected with false sympathy, "this isn't just about you. It's about something much bigger. You two think you can run with secrets you don't even understand? I've built an empire on the backs of fools who tried." Harold's grip tightened. "This ends here, Montgomery." The faint sounds of chaos echoed down the hall, different bellowing voices urging others on, but it felt worlds away. "You're going to get yourself killed," Montgomery spat dismissively. The pulse of the moment echoed in Harold's temples. He could feel the tension, a taut string ready to snap. "There is nothing left for you but fear. Your empire will crumble once the truth gets out." "Trust me," Montgomery chuckled darkly, "you have no idea what I'm capable of." I always stay 3 steps ahead. He took a step forward, an unsettling confidence radiating from him. Then, as if responding to a silent cue, the alarms transitioned from sirens to a deafening wail. The lights flickered again. Something was happening, something worse. Harold! The woman yelled, panic rising as the very walls around them seemed to shudder. An explosion rattled the building, and the shadow of chaos fell over them. Fire swept through the far end of the hallway, blowing open doors and sending a shockwave that staggered both men. Harold instinctively pulled the woman close, shielding her from the debris falling around them. "Make a choice, Montgomery," Harold shouted over the roar of destruction. "Are you going to let us out of here, or drown with your precious secrets?" Montgomery's facade cracked momentarily, the predator blinking against the sudden chaos. The moment hung heavy for a heartbeat, but danger surged through the corridor. "You don't really think you can escape this, do you?" he sneered, though the confidence in his voice now felt less assured. "Let us pass," she cried, fear morphing into desperation. "You're not as untouchable as you think." "Fools!" Montgomery bellowed. "You think this is about the exit? The countdown is real, and you won't survive it." Suddenly, the alarms transitioned to shields of red light, revealing silhouettes of guards descending toward them, weapons drawn. A dark certainty settled over Harold's mind. Montgomery had called for backup, but the timing felt off. "What countdown?" Harold demanded. "What have you triggered?" "Something beyond your understanding," Montgomery said, a wicked gleam returning to his eyes. "Even if you survive, you'll wish you hadn't." A stampede of footsteps echoed behind them. The escape route was collapsing, and Harold's decisions began to blur between hope and desperation. With the chaos orchestrating around them, the future blurred. Would they fight, hide, or surrender to the impending doom? "Follow me," he shouted suddenly, pulling the woman as he shot a look back at Montgomery. "Whatever it takes, we're not staying here." They sprinted away from the flames, dodging blasts that echoed like thunder. It was now or never, and uncertainty seized Harold's gut. But there was no turning back. The path ahead promised freedom or death. As they navigated the darkness, the hallway twisted, revealing another doorway, glimmering with promise. But what truly lay beyond? Was there a way out, or another piece of Montgomery's twisted plot awaiting them? In the heart of chaos, whispers of betrayal loomed, waiting to strike like a coiled viper. The climax loomed, and it was clear. The next choice could unleash a torrent of consequences they couldn't fathom. Would they escape, or would they become mere pieces in Montgomery's scheme? The door swung open with a gritty squeal, leading them into a dimly lit room that smelled of mold and stale air. Flickering lights overhead struggled against the encroaching darkness. It felt like stepping into a void, and every instinct screamed at Harold to turn back. But the thunderous steps of guards echoed behind them, chasing like a demonic chorus. "Where are we?" the woman whispered, her voice shaking as if each word weighed too much. "Don't know, don't care. We just need to keep moving," Harold rasped, his breathing growing ragged. The adrenaline was a drug, and with every heartbeat, it pulled him deeper into a state of fierce determination. They crossed the threshold, scanning the room. Metal shelves lined the walls, stacked with documents, boxes, and who knew what secrets. A chaotic jumble that felt dangerous. In the chaos of the building's collapse, the hierarchy of life had flipped. Once a janitor, a mere afterthought, now stood at the forefront of a battle he never asked for. Montgomery's voice echoed in his head, "You'll wish you hadn't." What did that mean? Bits and pieces of his warning snapped into focus with every hurried step. Dangerous grudges, hidden power plays. Montgomery had played a game with the stakes far beyond Harold's comprehension. "Look!" the woman cried, pointing towards the far wall. A glow pulsed behind a thin door, almost teasing them. If they could just get there, maybe crash. The wall shuddered as a projectile collided with it, sending debris flying. The guards were gaining ground. "Move!" Harold shouted, adrenaline surging anew. He raced toward the pulsing door, the woman close behind. The door, surprisingly, clicked open with a gentle push, revealing a hidden staircase spiraling down, snaking into the depths below. A stark contrast to the chaos above. With one last glance back, Harold felt the heat gangling at his back, a slithering reminder of the destruction lurking just outside. "Are you crazy?" she yelled over the cacophony of destruction. "We don't know what's down there. Better than staying here. Trust me," he argued, taking the lead as he descended into darkness, his heart pounding louder than the alarm blaring above. The further they went, the dimmer their surroundings became. The neon light from above faded, replaced by a softer, eerie glow coming from the end of the tunnel. It felt alive, pulsing like a heartbeat just waiting to consume them. "Do you hear that?" she breathed, fear creeping back into her voice. It's just the ventilation," Harold said, trying to convince himself as much as her. But even as he spoke, the sound morphed a dull thrum, growing louder, closer. It felt like a warning, like something had been awakened in the very bowels of the building. They reached a landing, and at the end of the corridor stood a massive vault-like door, heavily reinforced. A large numerical keypad glowed ominously next to it. "What is inside?" the woman asked, trembling. "Maybe answers," Harold surmised, edging closer. "Or something worse." He hesitated, weighing the implications of their choices. What secrets did Montgomery bury down here? More lies? "Access denied," a mechanical voice boomed, startling them both. Panic washed over Harold. "We need to find a way to open it. Now!" But just as he reached for the keypad, the alarm shifted again. The sound of footsteps thudded behind them, drawing near. They had mere moments before the guards closed in. Desperation clawed at him. "What if our only way out is through?" he barked, a chilling thought crossing his mind. "I can't," she gasped, but he was already typing furiously, hoping the right sequence would unveil the secrets hidden behind the dungeon-like door. As the countdown timer began, Harold felt the walls pulse around them. Would the door open? Would they be trapped? Tick, tick, tick. Would this be their salvation or doom? And would Montgomery watch them fall or rise to the challenge? The fate of their lives hung in the balance. The world began to stutter, the chaotic sirens replaced by a haunting silence that hovered like a menace in the air. Harold's fingers danced over the keys, adrenaline surging as the countdown ticked ominously, each second amplifying the dread sinking into his bones. The numbers glowed like a heartbeat, pushing him closer to a line that once crossed could not be undone. Come on," he whispered urgently, glancing back at the woman, whose face was a portrait of fear and determination alike. "If we don't get this door open, we're finished." The countdown flickered down from 30 seconds. Time felt like a tidal wave crashing, pulling him under. Every beat of his heart echoed in the silence, a drum urging him forward. This vault was their lifeline, the repository of secrets, lies, and perhaps the chance to rip down Montgomery's empire. "Is it working?" she whispered, anxiety lacing her tone. The footsteps echoed closer, heavy thuds shaking the hallway behind them. "Almost. I need more time." His breath quickened as he pressed the final sequence, every fiber of hope coiling tightly together. The green light flashed, a thrumming beat filling the room, drowning out the impending doom just beyond the door. "Access granted," the mechanical voice buzzed, releasing a rush that sent a wave of relief through them. The vault door creaked open, a heavy rush of air escaping into the claustrophobic hallway, revealing a dark cavern lined with shelves of confidential files, documents glistening with potential devastation. "I can't believe we're doing this," she exhaled, stepping forward just as the alarm blared louder, shattering the fragile moment of triumph. "Quick! Grab anything you can find." Harold urged, heart pounding, and together they raced into the chamber. Papers flew off the shelves like feathers from a disturbed nest, the darkness around them breathing purpose into their frantic search. Each document was a lifeline, a potential weapon against Montgomery's cruel grip. The countdown ticked lower. 10 seconds. 9. Harold's fingers grazed over a dossier thick with details. This is it," he shouted, holding up the document like a trophy. Inside were names, operations, and proof of Montgomery's manipulation, the entire structure of deception laid naked before them. But just as they gathered the evidence, the floor vibrated with the force of running boots, and Richard, Montgomery's security chief, slammed into the room, panic lining his features. He wasn't prepared for the sight of Harold, and the woman, 2 mere figures armed with the weapons of truth. "You have no idea what you're doing," he snarled, positioning himself menacingly. "Step aside, Reed," Harold demanded, clutching the file like a shield against the madness. "You don't want this fight." At that moment, the countdown reached 0. A last chaotic alarm screamed, and the lights flickered around them, twisting the shadows into a nightmarish chaos. The guards thundered closer, converging into a moment of unyielding threat. "You think those papers will save you?" Reed growled, confidence that flickered like a flame in the wind. "Maybe not," Harold countered, heart racing, "but they can expose everything you've hidden." The implications hung heavy in the air, and there was no backing down now. The young woman's hand tightened on his arm, a silent vow forged in shared desperation. With a courage forged from fear, they dashed past Reed, narrowly avoiding a confrontation, adrenaline coursing through their veins. The darkness had transformed, becoming a cloak to shield their escape. Bursting through the exit, they emerged into the chaos of the hallway once more, heartbeats pounding like war drums. But the greed and darkness still loomed behind them. Montgomery was more than just a man. He was a storm, and storms rarely pass quietly. "Harold, there's a fire escape." She pointed frantically, kicking open a door that had been hidden beneath shadows. They sprinted toward the thin stairwell, breathless, burdened by their shared fear, dragging the accumulative weight of all the truths they carried. The air thickened with smoke, laced with urgency as they climbed frantically downward, the sound of destruction echoing above them. Would they truly escape the chaos Montgomery had unleashed? Or was the nightmare only beginning to unfurl? As they reached the last step, the door burst open, revealing sunlight streaming in through the exit. "Go!" Harold shouted, pushing her forward. "Wait!" she gasped, staring back at the building, uncertainty and fear curling around her heart. "This is our chance," he yelled, dragging her outside into the freedom of daylight. And just as they crossed the threshold, the building erupted in a violent explosion behind them, engulfing the structure in flames that clawed at the sky. Standing terrified yet alive on the pavement, they watched as Montgomery's empire crumbled, a shocking conclusion shrouded in fire and smoke. "We did it," she whispered, trembling. "We really did it." Harold felt relief wash over him, but it mingled with the heavy weight of what they had uncovered. "It's not over, not yet. We need to expose him." This was just the beginning. So, they stood there, 2 figures in the harsh light of day, solemn survivors burdened with truth. They knew what they had to do next: gather allies, bring forth the evidence, and ignite the spark that would destroy Montgomery's corruption once and for all. And in that moment, they were no longer just a janitor and a terrified employee. They were warriors of truth, ready to fight against the monstrous shadows of deceit that threatened to consume them. This was their declaration. Their lives were irrevocably changed, and they faced an unknown future together, fueled by hope and the fire of newfound courage. Now it was time to rise, reach out, and reveal the truth that had been looming over everyone. Don't just watch from the sidelines. You need to subscribe now to grab hold of the next monumental stories we bring to life. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions. What did you think of the ending? What are your theories? And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support matters more than you know, and only true fans will act to keep the journey alive.